यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So today we shall be discussing first canto, 6th chapter, text number 35 to 38. I'll just quickly share the screen. Okay. Mari, can you give me the right to share the screen?
Oh, sure.
Thank you, Mari. Okay. So today's topic is the devotional service is the only way of satisfaction of the self. Oops. Okay. So here's text 35. Yamadbhiryokapadhai kamalobha hato muhu mukunda sevaya yadvad tathatmadha nashamyati. It is true that by practicing restraint of the senses by yoga system, one can get relief from the disturbance of the desire and lust. But that is not sufficient to give satisfaction to the soul. For this satisfaction is derived from devotional service to the personality of God. So this is actually a very beautiful and very important principle of Krishna consciousness. This is one of the absolute truth which people on the path of practicing spirituality tend to forget it. Actually, the satisfaction or the real happiness cannot come simply by getting relief from the disturbances caused by material existence. Because that is the stage of liberation. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Bhuta Prasanna Atma Na Shochati Na Kanchati. So, what is Brahma Bhuta stage? Brahma Bhuta stage is Na Shochati Na Kanchati. There's no lamentation. Shochati means lamentation, and Kanchati means hankering. So, there's no more hankering or lamentation. We lament when we lose something, and we have hankering when we want to possess something. So generally these two things come in phases in everyone's life. A person is hankering always for something, and when he gets the thing, he becomes a little happy. When the thing is lost, then he again shochati. He becomes, in the mode of lamenting for losing that thing. For example, say for example, when a man and woman get married, for example, they're not getting a child. So they're hankering to have a child. Just like we have in the Bhagavatam also, Maharaj Chitraketu's incidents in the 5th canto of Bhagavatam. Not 6th canto of Bhagavatam, sorry. So Chitraketu Maharaj was hankering to have a child. So then he got a child, he became so happy, but then he lost the child. The child died. Then shochati, he was so much lamenting. So he was hankering first, then little bit happiness, and then lamentation. So this is the natural conditional life of every living entity in this material world. Hankering and lamentation. But when a person rises above this hankering and lamentation, na shochati, na kankshati, that is called Brahmabhuta state. That is called liberation. And same stage is being explained here. Kama lobho hato muhu. Hata means destroyed. Prabhupada says here, curbed. So kama means desires, and lobha means hankering. Same thing is explained here. Kama is desire for sense gratification, which is nothing but kankshati, as Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. And lobha is hankering. So that is destroyed. Yamadbhi yoga pathe kama lobha hato muhu. People generally think in this world that if I become free from all the kama and lobha, all the desires and hankerings, the greed for or lust for the satisfaction of the senses, if I become free from that, that will be the happy state. Generally, people on the path of karma yoga and jnana yoga, they always strive for getting relief from all the desires. Karma yogi thinks the desire is the cause of bondage. So let me have no desires. Let me simply do my duty without any desires. So na kankshati. No. And jnani, they think the desires and the lamentation of losing something in this world, both are the cause of bondage. So let me become free from both. So they struggle very hard to get relief from the desires, to get relief from the hankerings and lamentation in this material world, which is actually a very, very difficult task. Say, for example, as it is said in Srimad Bhagavatam, when a man and woman unite in sex life in this world, they naturally become very much attached to each other. Hridaya Granthi means a hard knot is created between their hearts. And that hard knot, the strong feeling of attachment with each other, and that expands further. Ato graha kshetra sutta apta vittaya. The person becomes more and more attached to. When a man and woman become attached to each other in sex life, then the attachments expand for graha, for home, for business, for children, for relatives, for money. That attachment keeps expanding more and more and more. And that attachment is actually very, very painful. In fact, in Vishnu Puran, Prahlad Maharaj is instructing to his demonic classmates. In the instruction, he says, in this world, when people establish loving relationship with anyone based on the worldly concept of life, when we establish relationships with anyone, each relationship is like a sharp spear or a very sharp cane which is being established within the heart. Just imagine somebody takes the sharp spear or some arrow or some dagger and puts in your heart. It's going to be extremely painful. But that's what every relationship we establish in this world, based on the bodily concept, like based on the sense gratification, that relationship is like establishing a dagger or a sharp spear, which is ultimately going to pierce the heart. So, same, a man gets married. So the very first relationship is with a woman. A woman gets married, the relationship with the man. So that is the first dagger which is established in the heart. When there are children, the loving relationship with the children is established. The more the children, the more the spheres are being established in the heart. Because they all are going to give pain. Every relationship in this world, which is actually based on bodily concept of love, is simply meant to give us pain. It's going to give only pain. So the more one tries to expand the relationships in this world, the more one is actually creating the scope of becoming extremely unhappy. Not just unhappy, extremely unhappy. So becoming free from all such relationships, one may think, oh, I will have no more anxiety, no more fears, no more pain I have to suffer due to relationships. But Narada Muni is mentioning here, Mukunda Sevaya Yadvat Tathamada Na Shamyati. Na Shamyati. A person will never become happy until unless Mukunda Sevaya. Mukunda Sevaya Yadvat. As long as the person does not engage in the service to Lord Mukunda. In simple words, until as a person takes to the path of devotional service, until as a person starts chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Until as a person takes to the path of devotional service by chanting the holy names or engaging in active devotional service, one cannot get any happiness. Happiness will remain far, far away. Okay? So this is the we call significance of this verse. So senses are considered like the venomous serpents. So in Patanjali yoga system, a yogi is trained to control the senses. Because the senses, they are like venomous serpents. Now this comparison is actually very significant. When a venomous serpent bites, through putting the fangs within the skin, he drops few poison droplets within the bloodstream. And that poison, when spreads in the body, makes the person completely dysfunctional. In a very short time, person can actually die. So actually somebody had done an experiment, they were showing the experiment what exactly the poison does. So poison of a snake, and different snakes have different kinds of poison, but there had one particular experiment I saw, somebody had shared that experiment. So what they did is they were actually removing that poison from the fangs of a serpent, and then they took a small bottle of human blood, the human blood that you have, and he dropped 1 or 2 drops of that poison in the blood, and within few seconds, the small bottle of blood, within few seconds, it became clotted. It became like one lump of blood. So just imagine, when a snake bites, the whole blood starts clotting in the bloodstream. So there's no more blood flow. And the person dies immediately. So senses are compared to such a venomous serpent. When the snake poison goes inside the body, it actually starts making the whole body dysfunctional. Similarly, when the senses, they agitate the mind of a person, they make his mind completely dysfunctional. The person becomes simply crazy for sense enjoyment. Person loses complete sanity. In fact, uh, some devotees from prison preaching department, in our ISKCON, there is a department for preaching in the prison house. I remember one devotee in New Vrindavan, he was sharing once that most of the people in the prison or in correctional facilities, because they lost the moment, just one moment, they lost sanity, and they indulged in some activity which brought them in imprisonment. Many years imprisonment, just because they couldn't control certain emotions or some inclinations for a few moments to have satisfaction. They indulge in something, maybe it was anger or it was lust or whatever. Different people have different issues. But loss of control over the mind and senses brings people ruination. So this yoga system is actually meant to teach people control the senses. But of course, Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur, he writes a beautiful verse. He says, Durdantendriya kala sarpa patali prodhashtadam shrayate. When a person engages in devotional service, the same senses, Durdantendriya. Indriya or senses, they are Durdanta. Danta means to control, and Durdanta means very difficult to control, practically impossible. Durdantendriya, Indriya, Kala Sarpa Patali. It is like a sarpa. It's like a snake. So this snake is harmful as long as it has the fangs. If it has, poisonous fangs, then the snake is very harmful. But if the snake, his fangs are removed, if the snake's fangs are removed, then the same snake, even a children can take and start playing with him. No problem. So for a devotee who engaged in devotional service, these serpents, these poisonous serpents, they become like the serpents without the fangs. So Narada Muni, by his experience, says that devotional service to the Lord is actually the only thing that will give satisfaction. Yena atma suprasaditi. If a person has control over the senses, that is not going to bring any happiness. That will make a person avoid the distress which is resulting from uncontrolled senses. But that will not bring any happiness or satisfaction. So this is the sum and substance of this word. This word is actually very significant in the way that people generally miss this point, that it is not the finishing the desires or extinguishing the lust, anger, greed, envy, pride, and illusion will bring happiness. That is not going to bring happiness. That's going to bring only peace. One's mind will not be agitated. So Peace is the preliminary stage of happiness. So when the person is no more agitated by the senses, he becomes a little peaceful. And then with the peaceful mind, the person can think or advance in the direction of devotional service. Sama sarveshu bhuteshu, mad bhaktim labate pana. When a person becomes peaceful, he naturally becomes equal to everyone, then he can think or understand the subject matter of bhakti. Mad bhaktim labate para. So this is a very significant aspect of Krishna consciousness, that simply freedom from the desires is not the source of happiness. It is the source of peacefulness, but not the happiness. Now we go to text 36. Sarvam tat idam akyatam yat prishtoham tvaya jarma karma rahasyam me bhavatashat patoshanam. O Vyasdev, you are freed from all sins. Thus, I have explained my birth and activities for self-realization. As you asked, all this will be conducive for your personal satisfaction also. So here, Narad Muni is, sorry. So Narad Muni described his own life to Vyasdev. Why did he describe? Because hearing about the first-hand experience, a practical experience of a Vaishnava, is something is very useful for especially the disciple. When the Guru shares his own personal realization, especially a bona fide Vaishnava Guru, when he shares his own realizations, that inspires, that uplifts a living entity. And also hearing about the lives of the great souls, like here Narad described his own life, is something that brings gradual detachment from the worldly existence. Janayati asu vairagyam. Asu means very quickly. So very quickly a person develops vairagya or detachment from this world simply by hearing the subject matter of Krishna consciousness, especially hearing from the great sages like Narada Muni. Having the audience of the Lord is also possible through that process. So hearing is actually a very important aspect, especially in Krishna consciousness. Hearing is considered one of the process of devotional service. Shramanam Kirtanam Vishnu. So Shramanam is one of the process of devotional service. Simply by hearing the subject matter of Krishna consciousness, one becomes purified. One develops vairagya. One develops devotion to Krishna. All these things happen simultaneously, simply by hearing. Now one may think how that is possible. Simply by hearing about Krishna, one will develop detachment, one will be happy also, and one will become spiritually strong also. How that is possible? Bhagavatam gives a beautiful example also. Just like when we are hungry, naturally the body becomes weak. we feel very weak, especially like on Janmashtami toward the evening hours. You already feel very tired and exhausted because you're not eaten or drink anything. So, when a person is fasting and not eating or drinking anything, the body naturally becomes weak. But when after fasting a person starts taking each and every morsel of food and putting in his mouth, three things happen simultaneously. First and foremost thing happening is the person gets the taste. As soon as he's putting the food in the mouth, he's getting taste in the food. Second, he's becoming satisfied through the taste. Second thing happens is his hunger is slowly diminishing. And third is the person feels rejuvenated and again strong because of the no food and no water, no eating and drinking. The person actually becomes very weak, doesn't have any strength in the body. But by every morsel, he starts feeling strength in the body as well. So three things. First, the person is getting satisfaction, or able to relish the food. Second, his hunger goes down. Third, he feels strength in the body. So this is very crucial. So similarly, when a person engages in hearing the glories of Krishna, simply by hearing the glories of Krishna, the person becomes detached from the worldly things, becomes attached to devotional service of Krishna. At the same time, person's fever of material existence goes down. So this is the significance of hearing. So all the mysteries of transcendental realization, which was experienced by Narada Muni, and the glories of devotional service, are hardly revealed in the Vedas. So what in this particular chapter, what Narada Muni described to Vyasdev, it's very difficult to even find this kind of subject matter or this kind of realizations as narrated by Narada Muni in any of the Vedic texts. It's very difficult. So this is the sum and substance of this word. Let's go to text 37 and 38. Sutta Uvacha Evam Sambhashaya Bhagavan Narado Vasavi Sutam Amandra Veenam Ranyan Yayo Yadrichko Muni. Sutta Goswami said, thus addressing Vyasdev, Srila Narada Muni took leave of him, and vibrating on his veena instrument, he left to wander at his free will. Text 38 says, Aho devarshi dhanyoyam yat kirtim sharan kathan vaham gayan madaya idam tantra ramyati aturam jagat. All glory and success to Srila Narada Muni, because he glorifies the activity of the personality of Godhead. And so doing, he himself takes pleasure and also enlivens all the distressed souls of the universe. So, Every living entity in this world is anxious for becoming free from uh, the material existence. But to attain that freedom from the material existence, people generally take so many different, uh, means. Like in the modern times, people think by the turning our face to science and technology, probably we'll be able to find some solution to our, uh, you know, distress and condition life. But none of advancement in science, technology, any amount of research and development cannot bring solution to the problems. One time, one person, from scientific circles, kind of a scientist, he came to talk to Prabhupada, and he told Prabhupada, we have made so much advancement. We have made so much advancement in our modern times. Prabhupada said, what advancement we have made? We have not made any advancement. He said, no. We have made so much advancement in medicines. We have made so much advancement in technology and science. Prabhupada said, actually, there is no advancement. The whole advancement that you're talking about is zero. Because 1,000 years ago, people were being born, people were becoming diseased, people were growing old, and people were dying. Now also people are being born, people are becoming diseased, people are growing old, and people are dying. Previously, people were dying because of cholera or malaria. Now people die because of AIDS and cancer or this pandemic like COVID. So people are dying because of disease. Now also, 1,000 years back also they were dying. Maybe 100 years ago they were dying because of a Spanish flu. 200 years ago they were dying because of some other pandemic. So people die in this world, because of disease. People die in car accidents. People are dying before also. People are dying now also. People are becoming diseased before also. Now also people are becoming diseased. People were growing old before also. Now also they are growing old. What advancement we have made? Zero advancement. 1,000 years ago, people were eating, people were sleeping, people were mating or having sex, and people were defending, fighting. Now also people are eating, they're sleeping, they're mating, and they're defending. So where is the advancement? It's only an illusion to think that we have advanced. No change in the life and no change in the distress of life has occurred. What was there 1,000 years ago is also there right now also. So it's only out of foolishness people think, that we have made advancement. But any amount of advancement in science and technology cannot bring freedom from material anxieties. And the most amazing thing is, though we are very much conditioned by the material energy, everyone in this world thinks I'm free, I'm independent, I can do what I want. That's not true. We can never be independent. We are always dependent. But a person who takes to the process of devotional service, slowly and gradually, when a person advances in devotional service, the freedom becomes more and more visible. In fact, a pure devotee of the Lord, is completely free. He's free in the sense that he has no fear. He's completely under the shelter of Krishna. last slide. So without freedom, there is no execution of devotional service. The freedom, surrender to the Lord, does not mean the devotee becomes dependent in every respect. So there's actually a beautiful lecture by Srila Prabhupada. I think it was on one of the Independence Day lecture. The title of that lecture was, "Let us declare our dependence on God." So the disease in this world is people think that we are independent. In fact, every country has some Independence Day. Remarking that how they were freed from the atrocities of some foreign rule and they became free. But people don't even contemplate what that freedom has brought about. They might, but it's not that people were tormented by some foreign rule before. Now they're being tormented by their own rule, being tormented by the politicians to whom they have chosen. In fact, in some cases, the ruling or subjugation by the previous ruling could be actually better. But people don't realize this. They think, like in India, there were the freedom fighter. His slogan was, "Freedom is our birthright." But that's such a foolish propaganda. Freedom is our birthright. No, there is no freedom. As soon as the person is born in this world, there is no freedom. The only thing that follows the birth is old age, disease, and death. There's no freedom. When I'm born as a child, I have no freedom to eat what I want to. I can't even communicate to my parents. So I had to simply depend on my mother's guess. If she thinks, I'm hungry, she will feed me. I'm crying because of hunger. My mother thinks, no, maybe he is having some pain in the stomach. She feeds me bitter medicine. I have to simply take the bitter medicine. And sometimes I'm having stomach pain as a child, and my mother thinks, oh, I'm hungry. She feeds me more, and it pains me more. Where's the freedom? It's only foolishness to think that we have freedom. The more a person actually proclaims that he's free, the more he's bound by these stringent laws. This material nature does not grant freedom to anyone. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Jatasya hi dhruva mrityu. Mrityu is, the death is guaranteed for people who are born. So in simple words, if a person says, old age, death, and disease is my birthright, that makes more sense than to say freedom is my birthright. No, freedom is never our birthright. The very meaning of birth is being conditioned, being bound by the material existence. So, and that freedom, the real freedom, is actually attained by surrendering our freedom to Krishna. Prabhupada gives a beautiful example. That one time when he was a small child, Prabhupada was a small boy, and he was going with his father in the bus. So the bus conductor, he knew his father well, because his father used to travel, in that bus very often with Abhay. So one time, the bus conductor, just to scare Abhay, who was actually a small child that time, said, "Where is your ticket?" He's just trying to scare him. And so Prabhupada was explaining that when he saw that conductor asking him in this way, trying to scare him, he simply looked at his father and he said, "Here is my father." In other words, talk to my father. If you want ticket, he will show you the ticket. Just imagine, when a child is dependent on father, or the parents, he's actually carefree. When a person grows up, gives up the shelter of the father and mother, then his or her anxieties begin. Then that person is on his own. So devotional service is like taking shelter under Krishna's lotus feet. Devotional service is the path of complete freedom. And that is practiced under the guidance of a bona fide spiritual master. Like in this case, Narada Muni is instructing Vyasdev how he can actually get complete satisfaction by glorifying the Supreme Lord. So this is some in substance of these few verses that we discussed today. We'll stop here. If anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask.